Hey, we're up against Kenneth W. Bolin right now.
What's he doing?
I don't know.
First of all, how's he? Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. How is he still even living?
That's just an accomplishment in itself, right? Just
what was it? Bono said in Got Part 2.
Something. I don't know.
God's
I don't
gonna
even
get
know.
him if I don't get him first.
Yeah.
Let's tag Bryant Williams. Boom, tagging him.
Oh man.
All right, let's start with the greatest New Jack memory of all time since New Jack has left us today. This is him with Bob Caudle, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Here we go.
The new tag team on the block of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Impressive they are, the Gangsters. New Jack, let me tell you something. 30 years ago, we would have been strung up in somebody's tree, getting hung for beating two white boys the way we just did. But now, you might want to come out here and put some belts on us, but the only belts we're going to be wearing around here is a tag team belt. Let me tell you something. I don't like being up here. I was getting out of my car. I slipped and fell. It's the tobacco spit. And you know what I'm saying? Nothing but rednecks up here. Nothing but geeks up here. Nothing but coal miners up here. Chicken farmers, Klansmen. I don't like nobody but my partner.
Now, remember the guy who's holding the microphone, Bob Caudle, was working not at this time, but for most of his life with Jesse Helms. I had this round and round with him because David Bixenspan was like, oh, Bob Caudle was, he was, and I'm not defending the policies of Jesse Helms because they were homophobic and racist and awful, and you're seeing a great perpetuation. Yeah, you're seeing a great perpetuation of them today.
Yeah,
I would never defend that.
Perpetuation, yes.
Bob Caudle's contribution to Jesse Helms' entire political career was that he ran the Raleigh office so that some little old lady was not getting her Social Security check. He would look into that, pass it on, and try to make sure that she got her Social Security check. If some veteran had some question about his VA benefits, that was Bob Caudle. He was not out there. I don't know personally if Bob Caudle hated homosexuals or black people or whatever. I don't know any of that, but his contribution was not to the awful stuff that Jesse was doing. So you can't blame that stuff. Bob Caudle was basically trying to get little old ladies their checks and to make sure that people, we're trying to bitch about a freeway being built through their backyard. Shit like that. That's what Bob Caudle was doing.
He was sort of like a human resources people for the people.
That's right.
For the people.
That's what Bob Caudle was truly doing. But he's holding the microphone while this man is saying all manner of awful things against rednecks, which was the major constituency, of course, of Senator Jesse Helms.
Yeah, well, you could say that. You go out on a limb.
Understand? I don't care who you line up in front of me. I'm going to show you how bad New Jack and Mustafa is. You want to talk about violence? Violence to you might be pushing by the figure four. Violence to me is taking a can of gas and pouring it on you and setting you on fire. Like me or not, I didn't come up here to be liked. I came up here to get paid. And whoever you put in front of me, I'm going to drop you down. I like to send a special shout out to my homeboy, O.J. Simpson. Keep up the good work, baby. Too less, we got to worry about. You understand? Keep up the good work. Louis Farrakhan will be the next president. Snoop Dogg, we know you, Anderson. You called me last night. You understand? Get ready, Smoky Mountain, because we're going to set this place on fire. All right, fans, there they are.
All right, fans.
Didn't break stride in 1 second, did he?
All right, fans. Some really angry black folks right there. Let's go to the ring. All right, fans. This guy would murder me in a heartbeat, string me up, and eat my entrails. Let's go to the ring, fans.
Paul Roma in the ring, fans.
You've heard the stories that Cornette basically said, "Go out there and piss white people off." That's essentially what he said. And there was some tremendous racism involved with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They would have those there was that angle that Tracy Smothers did with the Confederate flag, and some fans from the Klan took him to the side and said, well, don't worry. If you guys lose tonight, we'll take care of it. We're going to take it. And Tracy's like, no. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm good.
I don't know if Cornette decided, hey, we should rebook that a little bit, but just based on the fact that maybe we'll let the white guys go over tonight, just for fun, just for our own safety,
just for the heck of it. Yeah.
I haven't read, but I'm assuming that New Jack died in Greensboro because that's where he was living. Is that what it was?
Yeah. I don't know exactly where, but it said he said died in his hometown is what I read.
Yeah, he was, because I had sent him a tweet like a couple of months ago, and I said, how the hell did you end up in Greensboro? He goes, I'm from Greensboro, which I never, I don't know if that was like well publicized for a long time.
I don't think it was, man.
I guess I can tell this story now that he's dead and Bruce is retired. Of course, Bruce Mitchell made no story of being, he was a teacher for the Guilford County schools, and they had, meet the teachers night at the beginning of one of the school years, like a year or two ago. There's fucking Jerome. Jerome's in the school cafeteria eating a pudding or some Jello or something, and Bruce double takes and what?
No.
That's really him? And he's like, yeah, that's him. He's got those railroad tracks across his forehead, and yeah, that's Jerome. So he's dead at the age of 58. It's hard to think of a great New Jack memory. Certainly he was one of the guys that frightened me a lot back in the 90s in ECW, for sure. That was the first time I would have seen him.
Yeah.
He's
one of those guys that I would have a hard time, kind of like Pillman, really, in the sense of, and I like New Jack a lot, man. I kind of got into his game a little late, but once I did, I went back and watched some of his old stuff, and oh my gosh, man. I mean, yeah, but before I really got into him and stuff and just saw him for the first time, I'm like, dude, is this dude? He convinced me it was a complete shoot, Well,
there was none of that stuff when he's going around the ring and they're playing that Natural Born Killers song or whatever. Yeah. You didn't go, oh, this is fake. Oh, this isn't real. You never for 1 second, and that's the other thing. Paul Lee booked him perfectly. I mean, he wasn't there to have a match. It was over 5 seconds long. He was just there to go in there with a cheese grater and kill people and shit like that.
Yeah. But you tell me this? Don't you think Mustafa? I like Mustafa, but especially in Smoky Mountain, maybe ECW, but I'm thinking more Smoky Mountain. Don't you think he was kind of goofy sometimes? I mean, maybe he was supposed to be. I don't know, but I didn't take him as serious, man. I mean, I know he did some crazy stuff, but I took him as more of a goofy, like a Otis kind of character,
Otis or a Eugene or something like that.
I definitely. He didn't come anywhere as being as convincingly serious as New Jack to me.
Well, you saw the dark side of the ring. The guy was smoking pencil shavings.
Yes,
he was literally.
Yes.
He was
what
like,
does that say?
He was literally trying to convince the boys that this will get you higher than any pod or anything that you're doing. Just smoke these pencil shavings. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, it makes my argument that much better. You saying that?
Yeah, I mean, he was nuts. He was out of. They were legitimately saying it wasn't an act with that guy. That guy was completely and totally out of his mind. There was no question about it, and it was a very weird act. And I mean, it's the fact that it comes to fruition in Smokey makes it like that much more. It makes total sense because, in a sense, that was, to me, that was more or less like Cornette's Memphis influence there. Like, I'm going to take these two guys, and maybe they couldn't main event anywhere else, but I'm going to throw them out there, have them do this thing, and it's going to get over. And it totally did, but then they ended up fucking him when they were going to ECW and all that stuff. So
yeah,
all of that stuff happened.
I did like the whole angle. You probably remember when Mustafa, he left and then came back to ECW.
Right.
And when he came back and he was feuding. New Jack was feuding with like the Dudleys.
Right.
Mustafa came back and then in the match he teamed with New Jack against the Dudleys and ended up turning on New Jack, and they had a thing going there for a while. New Jack and Mustafa did. So that I kind of like that, even though he still was kind of goofy acting, but I don't think he was as bad in ECW as he was in Smoky Mountain. But yeah, New Jack. And I'll tell you another thing too, man. And I think you were there that year. I don't think this was the year you couldn't go, but I was going on and on at WrestleCade about I want to go meet freaking New Jack. He's sitting right over there. Nobody's around him or anything. But I was so I was so intimidated. Even then, even knowing what I knew, I was like, I was still intimidated to go up there. But damn it, I'm like, and I said next time I see him, I'm going to get my picture made or whatever. But damn, oh,
you're such a mark.
I'm fucking I know I'm a mark. I'll be the first to tell you I'm a mark. I'm not going to argue that.
You screwed up your courage and you went to go see Abdullah the Butcher. There we go. There's a good picture of Mustafa. There's a nice picture of Mustafa.
Now, see, that's a great picture. If you didn't know all the goofiness, man, he looks, badass right there.
See, the dark side of the ring with New Jack was perfect because his entire life was dark. I mean, his childhood, the entire pro stuff. I don't know if he ever legitimately went to prison. Nobody ever really knew any of that part of his life or anything like that. But he was definitely, all of his whole act, everything he ever did was completely dark. It was completely dark side of the ring for sure.
Yeah, even starting when he was a little kid and his dad shooting his mom when his mom was carrying him out the door trying to leave his dad. Yeah,
all of it was insane.
Started from there and just got kind of worse, really.
And then he just turned that into a living for a while.
Basically, yeah, it was a shoot.
And beyond the mat, I mean, he was trying to. I think Barry Blaustein was trying to get him some interviews and stuff with to be an actor with some talent agencies and stuff to try to do that, and it just never panned out. I don't know how you kind of translate that act into movies, but maybe you do because he's a method actor. He's not going to be like I can't imagine.
He's kind of like a Mr. T 2.0.
Yeah,
he's Mr. T that I would fuck with Mr. T before I'd fuck with New Jack.
If Tiny Lister was real, if you really thought Tiny Lister was going to kick your ass, that would be New Jack. But you can't see him like being in a buddy cop movie with Kevin Hart, and then all of a sudden they're cracking up like ha ha ha.
Yeah, that's shark jumping, man. I couldn't deal with that.
But they, everybody, it seemed like it was ever in ECW had a crazy New Jack story. I know when they did Dark Side of the Ring Confidential, and they had Tommy Dreamer on there, and he's Jack's a very humorous guy. Jack's a very funny guy, and Jack's a very nice guy. That's just really who he is.
I can see that.
You talk about living the gimmick. You talk about protecting the gimmick. Undertaker had nothing on this guy.
No shit.
He had nothing on this guy. So it's sad to see him go at this point. But I don't know if you would have told me 10 years ago, if he would have made it to the age of 58, I don't know if I would have believed you, right?
Well, it's like I told somebody a little bit ago. It's like I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked.
Right?
How can anybody kind of be shocked? I guess
considering the lifestyle, making it to 58 is something.
Right.
TMZ writes,
but he didn't look bad. That's the thing.
No,
guys he didn't look like a strung out, abused wrestler. He looked. He of course he had the scars and that sort of thing on his face, talking about the rake across his forehead kind of thing. But overall, he didn't look that bad. Last time I saw him, he looked bad at all.
New Jack joins the list of all the greats who have died in North Carolina, including Buffalo Bob from the Howdy Doody Show, Little Eva, Wolfman Jack. I've got the full list. Andre the Giant did not die in North Carolina, but he was residing in North Carolina at the time of his death. Bob Denver also died in the state of North Carolina. Were you aware of this?
Yes, in Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center.
That's correct. That's where he actually did die. I believe the Jack Johnson, the great heavyweight champion from the early 20th century, also met his fate in North Carolina. I used to keep Willie Stargell, the Hall of Fame Pittsburgh Pirate, died in Wilmington. I used to have the great master list of all the greats who came to North Carolina to die.
Oh, wow, that's an impressive list. And I'll tell you a weird connection. My mom used to live in Galveston for 30 some years, and there's a statue in downtown Galveston of Jack Johnson.
No kidding.
I think he was. I may have to look it up, but I think he was born there or something. But there was a reason. But I just thought that was weird. The Jack Johnson here and Galveston connection. That was
there should be a statue of Glenn Campbell in Galveston, or at least Jimmy Webb, one of those two.
There's no shit. Both of them, just kind of, arm in arm.
As we appeal to the Generation X demo that we covet, PW Insider is extremely sad to report that Jerome New Jack Young passed away earlier this afternoon following a heart attack in North Carolina, where he had lived in recent years. PW Insider was informed by Young's wife, Jennifer, of his passing. Young was 58 at the time of his passing. At times, Young was one of the most controversial wrestlers in professional wrestling, but he was one of the more intense and charismatic performers over the past several decades. The New Jack name was inspired by the film New Jack City. Once Young imagined fans chanting it while he was in the ring, it came true countless times. After breaking into the business in Georgia while mentored by the late Ray Candy, New Jack formed the Gangstas with Mustafa for a run at Smoky Mountain that put the duo, empowered by Jack's incredible edgy interviews, on the map, leading to the team headlining against everyone from the Rock and Roll Express to The Undertaker. After Smoky, the duo moved to Extreme Championship Wrestling during the period of 1995. Jack and ECW were a perfect match as the product pushed everything as far as the envelope would allow at the time, providing Jack with the perfect backdrop to paint violent, bloody pictures as he and his partners brawled all over the buildings, while Ice Cube and Dr. Dre's Natural Born Killers blasted over, creating a real-life movie fight scene like never before or since in pro wrestling. While Jack held the ECW World Tag Team Championship several times, he might be far better remembered for diving out of balconies to put hapless opponents through tables, sometimes that he devised as a way to make sure the audience's attention and their memories were about him, no matter whether he was booked to win or lose. Over time, his fearlessness at times doing the dives took its physical toll, especially after a planned fall at Living Dangerously 2000 went completely wrong. But any highlight reel of ECW would be incomplete without those insane moments. Young's life and career were chronicled during the second season of Dark Side of the Ring. Also made a memorable appearance in the Barry Blaustein documentary Beyond the Mat in 1999, where Blaustein famously remarked that none of his other friends had justifiable homicides on their record. There will be a lot written about Jerome Young in the days to come, good and bad. This is Mike Johnson writing this at pwinter.com. But the reality was this: he loved to perform and he loved to be New Jack in the public eye. He put himself through a lot of physical pain in order to live his life as New Jack, and once famously told our own Dave Shearer that he made the decision to do so and that he knew he was going what he was getting into, and they would have no regrets because it was the decision he chose to make. PW Insider will have far more in the life and career of New Jack to come, but there is no denying his place in wrestling history, that he blazed a trail as a performer unlike anyone, and likely no one will ever follow. New Jack no longer with us at the age of 50. You can't even really talk about New Jack without that mass transit incident, though, right?
Right. Coolest.
That mass
that was crazy.
That was insane. And that kid getting sliced open and Jack having to go to court over that. He was eventually acquitted. And then, as Dark Side of the Ring detailed in more recent years, he was down in Florida with a guy who would not sell for him, and he ended up stabbing the guy.
Yeah.
Stabbing him repeatedly with a knife.
Yeah. Who was that guy? Some little cocky dude.
Some little asshole from I can't remember. Was it Gypsy something or other? It wasn't Gypsy Joe, was it?
Man, I couldn't begin to tell you. I just remember kind of what he looked like, and I remember kind of the look on New Jack's face when he wouldn't sell, man. And I'm like, oh shit!
So he gets out. He just stabs him, and there's videotape evidence from several angles, and all of a sudden he's got to go to jail. And then the guy wanted to make an angle out of it as they went throughout Florida, and Jack's like, "Sure, get me out of here," and then he just took off. So there we go.
He took a real life powder, man.
Tonight on SmackDown, we have big news. It is a new women's tag team championship for Tamina and Natty. They are your new tag team champions, beating Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to win those titles on the Smacky Downy. That's a big championship change on a pretty good SmackDown, which featured an interesting match. It was Dolph Ziggler and Rey Mysterio, with Mysterio beating Dolph Ziggler ahead of that tag match on Sunday at WrestleMania Backlash. We'll get into that in a little bit. The main angle on the show involved the Samoan bloodlust as Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso continue to fight over fealty to Roman Reigns, and it was Jimmy Uso who was in that main event against Cesaro. His cousin Roman Reigns interferes, screws the entire thing up, and then Jimmy is in the ring. He is failing to come to the defense of his brother Jay and Roman Reigns, and then gets a super kick for his troubles. That's how we went off the air with Roman Reigns retreating with his championship. It's going to be Roman Reigns and Cesaro at WrestleMania Backlash on Sunday. Any thoughts about the new women's tag team champions, Brian?
I'm glad, I guess. I don't know. I'm not as excited as I maybe should. I be more excited than I am. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I'm not. I'm happy for him. I guess I'm happy that Tamina finally got a belt. I guess, but it just seems like it's I feel sorry for you tag team championship kind of thing.
Right? Is that what it's a pity fuck or something like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's
it almost feels like the whole Mysterio thing that we'll get into later, I guess. Coming up. I don't know. What do you think?
I was happy to see him.
I think you're a bigger Natty fan than I am. I mean, I love Natty, but I think you're a bigger fan than I am.
Well, I feel like they're kind of angling toward putting her in the Hall of Fame at some point in time when she retires, because she has done some great work. She has not been, on top a whole lot, but she has been someone who has helped out that division a lot, and she has put over a lot of people and helped them on their way. So I feel like I'm trying to compare her to another performer that they would have put in a similar situation in the Hall of Fame, but she's almost like a Christian Cage type of person, really.
Yeah,
somebody who you've not been able to see all of their work, but everybody pretty much respects them, and everybody kind of agrees that they had a Hall of Fame career. Christian is going to go in the Hall of Fame surely at some point in time.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But in defense of her, I will say this of Natty. I think she has been, and this, of course, she's not the only one, but since we're talking about her, I think she's been kind of poorly booked over the years too. I'm not saying that she's got the most outgoing personality, but she seems kind of, she's not, I don't know. To me, she's almost not that great on the mic.
She's almost too nice.
She's okay.
She's almost too nice.
Yeah,
almost too nice for the business.
Yeah. And I think that was she reminds me of something when you said that. She reminds me of somebody else as far as talking on the mic, and I can't think of who it is now, but it's somebody very similar. It's almost like she's too, like I said, too nice for the business, and it kind of comes out when she's trying to be a heel on interviews and stuff. But I think she definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I just wish that they would have made a bigger deal out of her over the years instead of making her a heel, kind of Mark Henry and Big Show on her, just she's a heel one week and a face the next,
She feels very
really got spinning wheels.
She feels very much to me like a white meat baby face. She's not somebody who could really be easily put into a situation where she's a heel at all.
No.
And I always say that when they had in the early days, when they had a natural thing with her, with Summer on the Diva show, they never really paid that off like they should have. They had those guys, and I think that was part of the deal, is that I think they were going to springboard off of that and make her into a bigger star on the Diva show, but it just never kind of panned out. But I think she was kind of at her best, really, for me, in her career. Unless she's got time left, she could always turn it around, and they could always try to push her. And I think the Hart Dynasty, when she first started, was probably the best stuff she's done, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
And then, of course, TJ, with that unfortunate accident that caused him to go into retirement from being in the ring and just being a trainer, with the Samoa Joe, the muscle buster that went wrong. And so all that kind of was bad luck for her. But I felt like when the Hart Dynasty really started out, they really could have had some legs there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you said that about TJ, it seems like that's kind of, I don't know. Now that you say that, it makes me think that that's kind of when she kind of went sideways herself, the career, because I think her and TJ would have been a great combo. I don't know if they would have been, a superstar team or whatever, but as a duo, I think they would have worked out really well.
TJ's fantastic.
Because TJ had the personality to work the mic, on interviews if they were together, kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that would have worked. TJ's a really good worker. He would have worked with a lot of these guys. Like TJ against AJ Styles. Holy shit. How many times would I have watched that match? I could have watched that match for 50,000 times and never got bored with that. I mean, you could imagine TJ against Cesaro would have been fantastic. They could have worked together forever.
that whole situation, from what I understood, was just kind of a backstage cold match. Like, you two guys, you're going to work together, and they didn't really plan it out. And then, it really isn't anybody's fault. It was just something that happened. And TJ suffered a pretty serious accident that could have been very bad. Any other thoughts on what you saw tonight on SmackDown? Are you holding out some kind of hope for Roman on Sunday, that Roman will lose that Universal Championship?
As much as I'd like to see Cesaro win, I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think it should, and I'm not expecting it to. But I think something will happen. I think some storyline thing will happen in the match somehow with the Usos. An interference, something.
Jimmy against Jay at SummerSlam sounds pretty good, though, right?
Wow. See, I thought about that.
Yeah, Jimmy against Jay at SummerSlam. That does not sound bad. And that whole, the whole Samoan thing going on right now is the best thing going on. That's the best storyline in WWE right now.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Alexa Bliss showing up on a swing and interrupting a match and freaking people out, which obviously is tremendously entertaining and is money in any territory in the world.
Oh, Lord.
Right?
That is just, God, man. I just can't believe they've let her devolve into this.
It's painful. And there's like nothing. All she does is like show up, and then people are wrestling, and then they're not. They're looking at her like, and they're just supposed to be freaked out.
Oh, my God. And her and Bailey tonight on SmackDown with their fake ass, horrible laughs.
Yep.
Oh.
You do, but you do really want to see Bianca Belair beat the shit out of Bailey on Sunday. So there's something to that. I'll give you that. You do. That's almost white heat, but it's almost like, I would like to see Bianca just absolutely tear the shit out of this woman on WrestleMania Backlash, because it's no longer called Backlash.
That's right. You gotta market that bitch.
And I was thinking tonight again. Speaking of people I don't give a shit about, Baron Corbin.
I know, man.
Baron Corbin has nothing. There's just nothing there. There's nothing there at all.
Working the fucking King of the Ring bullshit, man.
We're getting into Roman Reigns territory from 4 years ago. Like, if I ever see anybody with a Baron Corbin T-shirt on, I would be who the hell is wasting? That's like the worst thing. That's like a gag gift, right?
Seriously, man. That's like a Baron Corbin shirt is like this kind of shirt you find at like TJ Maxx at like
in the bargain bin, the $2 bin.
And like at like 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday when everybody and their brothers already rummaged through everything, and that's what's fucking left.
Let me tell you the T-shirts I would want before I'd want a Baron Corbin shirt. I'd want a Reginald shirt before I'd get one of those.
A Reginald shirt.
I would want that stupid general guy that's with Apollo Crews. I'd want one of his shirts before I would.
General Commander, is that his name?
Whatever that idiot's name is, that I would want one of his shirts before I would want that.
Commander Sergeant. I think that's what his name is.
Commander Sergeant. I would want that guy. I probably would want. Oh, who's the stupid ass that you hate? That the guy that used to be the punter for the Colts. Oh, McAfee. I'd want a Pat McAfee shirt before I.
Dude, he had an awful night tonight.
He really did. He really, honestly, I'm warming up to the guy because
me too. But tonight was just not his night.
He'll never be as bad as Excalibur. He'll never be as annoying as Excalibur. He'll never be as awful as Excalibur. But I would, for one night, I would like to see them switch spots. I would like for McAfee to go over to Dynamite for one night and have X over on SmackDown just to see how it would go. Just to see how things would happen on that. That would be pretty damn funny if that was the deal.
Oh, good for Dynamite, I guess.
That pretty much covers SmackDown. Raw was Alexa Bliss showing up and just interrupting a match for no reason. Basically, is what happened.
And who was it that started? Who did she fuck with in the ring? Didn't she like Shayna? Was it Shayna?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden her knee started giving out, and we're getting into TNA shit, man. We're getting into fucking.
I don't know how we can make this shit stupider. Bruce, tell me. God damn it. Oh, sad news. Sad news for Bruce Pritchard fans. Conrad was unable to record an episode with him, so they had to do another remix. This is what Conrad's doing now. It's a good week for Conrad. I'm gonna circle back to that. Good week for Conrad. So he puts out the statement, Bruce is he's so busy licking Vince McMahon's ass. He's not going to have time to record with me because there's some
so
corners.
busy. Well, so why is he so busy at this point in time? It's not like it's even WrestleMania time or anything.
Because there's corners of Vince McMahon's ass that Bruce has not licked yet, and he's got to get to it.
just now figured that one out.
Get in there, Bruce. Get in the tank. That tank. Get in it. Nah. Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do. So, in addition, what he does on the Jeff Jarrett show, which is better than we thought. It's really not as bad as we thought. They had some interesting stuff
Jeff
about.
Jarrett, I'm sorry, I do.
The story about him quote unquote holding up Vince McMahon for money. When you hear Jarrett tell the story, it makes complete sense. It really does.
I totally believe you.
And I believe Jeff Jarrett's telling the truth about this. He says that when Vince McMahon, God damn it, this is so great because it could only be Jeff Jarrett coming from a promotion family, knowing the levers that he had. He goes, okay, I want the money and I want it tonight and I'm going to need it from the Gund Arena account. So they had to go to the box office of the Gund Arena, get the check. That money would have to be then subtracted from whatever the gate receipts were and whatever the WWE's cuts were. Vince delivers it to him in an envelope. And Vince apparently says something like, all right, go out there and kill him.
Have a great match. Knock it down.
So Jeff Jarrett is so paranoid because he's got a check for, I think he's got a check for $300,000 or $400,000, which is, by far the greatest payday he's ever had in his life. He gives it.
I would hope, but yeah.
He doesn't stick that in a bag and put it in the locker room because if he does that, then obviously X-Pac's gonna go in there and take a shit in it. He gives it to some guy that he trusts, goes, hang on to this. And he says when he came back through the ring and he got his ass whipped by China, he said goodbye to Vince, he said goodbye to the boys. This is so funny. In Bob Holly's book, because of the match, Jeff Jarrett was covered with like flour and shit. Bob Holly claims that Jeff Jarrett went out of the building covered in flour and sweat, and that went out to the car in his gear, and that's how he got on the fucking plane to go home to Memphis or whatever. It was like, and Jeff Jarrett goes, "Yep, American Airlines flight 68, seat 3C. There it was, just a big old flour stain right there." It never happened like that. He took his shower, he changed his clothes, he went out of the building, he said goodbye to everybody, he thanked everybody, he got in the car, and he went home.
I was going to say, who the fuck does that?
It's like Bob Holly can't even lie very well. He can't even fucking get his shit straight when he's lying his ass off. So
he needs to go back being Speed Racer Holly, whatever the hell he was.
Oh yeah, Speedy Sparky Plug.
Sparky Plug.
Thurman Sparky Plug. That was who he was. That was one of the great Vince.
All right, we're giving occupation. You're gonna be a race car driver. Get out there and drive. Give him some checkered shit. Checkered shit. You wear some checkered shit.
Thurman Sparky. Well, the other gimmick for Bob Holly could have been a welder. He could have been some kind of welder because that's what he did in real life. So he could have done that.
I guess theoretically, yeah.
So in Conrad land,
like the welder, I'd have been more believable.
It's
like
Stevie
Will
Welder.
the Welder.
Your name is Stevie Welder. And God damn it, your finishing move is the galvanizer. Hey, got a galvanizer. Hey, galvanize. Oh my, galvanize. Oh my.
He's gonna do that shit.
Looks like he's gonna galvanize him. Okay, I got him. Oh my. 1, 2. Oh no, kicked out.
So in Conrad land, he had a podcast of his father-in-law. He had 60 Minutes with his father-in-law. This is what
all night long. Woo!
And it was pretty good because they go on tangents and they talk about shit and he talks about going up to see Mongo. Flair does.
Okay, cool.
And it's good. This is what Conrad's doing that's pissing me off a little bit. And if I was spending money on ad-free shows, I'd be pissed off about this. Twice this has happened in the past week. It happened on last week's Pritchard show, and it happens this week with the Flair thing. Those guys get to talking about something that they shouldn't be talking about. And so they put the fast-forward tape effect onto the podcast, and they go past that part. So you can't hear whatever the story was that they weren't told.
So they tease you with it.
Exactly.
I got you.
And then so if I'm on ad-free shows, I'm like, okay, let the free people not hear that shit, but those of us that are paying for this shit, we should get to hear the story. And You can even hear him on the Flair one. Flair goes, maybe you should cut that out or something like that. And I can't even remember what, but they do the like the fast forward little tape thing, and you're like, oh man, if I was subscribing to this shit and paying money for it, I'd be like, fuck you, let me hear that. What are you talking about?
Either let me hear that shit or you edit that whole shit out.
Yeah,
I don't tease my ass if I'm paying your ass.
It pisses me off. It's like that story that we heard about Hulk Hogan passing out in Vince McMahon's basis, and then Bruce got mad at us. The only reason I like that story is because it's like there's no way it happened. There's just no possible way that happened.
Don't say that, dude. Don't say that.
Right, I can't.
200 years from now, people are going to go, there's no way Donald Trump was that president of the United States. There's no fucking way.
Next thing I know, it's Jerry McDivitt. I'd like to talk to you about some. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. You know, they got McDivitt on this season of Dark Side of the Ring for the steroid trial. They actually had a sit down with fucking McDivitt.
Okay.
You talk about Satan himself. Holy shit. I think he's like the turbo booster for Vince McMahon's little bitty satanic heart. Jerry McDevitt.
Dude, well, he's a fucking attorney for them. What would you expect? What else would you expect?
All attorneys are evil. There's a reason you hate attorneys. If you needed any reason to hate attorneys, that defense guy in the fucking George Floyd, I call it the George Floyd trial. He wasn't on trial. Derek Chauvin trial. The guy who was the defense attorney, I think his name was Eric Nelson. What a piece of garbage that guy was. Why did George Floyd die? It could have been the drugs. It could have been carbon monoxide poisoning. It could have been the people not allowing the paramedics to. Fuck you, asshole. I'm glad
that
you
fucking
lost.
Clown. He's the kind of guy that makes you fucking hate lawyers.
Yeah,
he's the perfect example, man.
I bet he went to Duke University Law School.
He
just seems like the kind of guy that would go to Duke University Law School.
Yeah, somebody that looks like that, and you go, "Damn, he really went to Duke." But yeah, I guess look at him. Yeah,
but nobody really bad has ever gone to Duke University Law School. I mean, nobody that's ever gone on to be president or anything, or like have to resign the office or anything of that nature. Nothing like that would ever happen.
No,
it would just be impossible to find something.
That's a myth.
This is more of my irrational hatred of Duke that I can't justify in any way. I mean, that's just the way you would think that somebody, I'm going to pull a name out of my ass. Somebody like, I don't know, Senator Rand Paul would have some sort of association with Duke. And that's just not the case. It's just not the deal. And you would think that like the chief speechwriter for the worst president we ever had, maybe he had some association with Duke University, and maybe he traveled 3,000 miles across the country to go to fucking Duke because he found little racist assholes like himself in one place where he can thrive. But, again, these are irrational, crazy thoughts that just spring through my head for some reason.
Fucking psycho.
It's just insanity. All Elite Wrestling's Dynamite program. There's the headline from the Wrestling Observer. AE Dynamite ratings down significantly from Blood and Guts. So for those of you that are on this kick that David Meltzer is in the AEW tank, oh my God, he accidentally published a true headline on his website that was negative toward All Elite Wrestling. Let's go to the story. Wednesday night's AEW Dynamite averaged 936,000 viewers on TNT. It's down 14% from the previous week's Blood and Guts episode. Aside from the episode that went against Joe Biden's presidential address, that is the lowest viewership under number Dynamite has done since NXT moved to Wednesday nights. In that 18-49 demo, the important one, they drew a 3.31 rating, which was down 26% from last week. Lowest number Dynamite has drawn since April the 7th. Lowest number the show has ever done on a night when it was not against NXT. 18-34, it's a 0.19 rating. That is the same as last week, although the raw number of viewers in 18-34 was up 2.3%, according to David Meltzer in this week's Wrestling Observer. It was bound to go down because of the promotion that was coming from, Blood and Guts was heavily promoted and was like huge, big deal. So it seems like, they had nowhere to go but down. And remember, the build up to Blood and Guts was, they were popping that hot shot thing with Mike Tyson as well. So they're going to suffer through some of that stuff, right? A little bit because of down ratings, because they come off of these hot shot things that they're doing, right?
Well, I was going to say that, of course, but man, 26%, that's a steep downward go there, man.
And it wasn't a bad show. I thought there were some really good elements of stuff that happened on Wednesday night. I wouldn't.
You talking about
me?
Blood and Guts or this past? Okay.
This past week.
Okay. It was okay.
Christopher Daniels bled like a stuck pig. Holy crap. There was a couple of missed spots in that match, but I thought overall that match with the Young Bucks that opened things up was pretty hot. I thought they did a good job with that.
How'd you think? Was it Matt or Nick? I'm like you, I get them mixed up.
Right.
What he did, like the ode to Shawn Michaels and
I love,
Ric Flair.
I'm sorry, I love you, because I thought he was crying because he got the blood on his Jordans. I thought that was what that angle was all about, because he was bleeding on his Jordans, and that's what. Because I was watching it with somebody. I was watching it with somebody at work, and they go, "They're wrestling in Jordans now," and I went, "Well, you know, if you're a bad guy, if you're an asshole heel, that's what you're going to wear to the ring. It's like some $350 shoes." And then all of a sudden they get bled on, which is even better.
And you get pissed.
And I'm not going to sit on here and I'm not going to get here and shit on AEW. I thought it was a fine show, and I can't really understand why they're not getting, you know, a particular rating. I would just continue along that same line. I don't have a problem with the blood. I don't have a problem with the language. I find some of it to be a little bit gratuitous, but I know what they're trying to do is differentiate themselves from the other product. If you're flipping through the channels and you come across Christopher Daniels bleeding, you're not thinking you're watching World Wrestling Entertainment. If you hear Tony Schiavone say, "Is this piece of shit going to throw him off the top of the cage?" You know for sure you ain't watching Raw. You're not watching a WWE product. So I don't, to the extent that they're doing that, you know, and it's a PG-13 world, I don't have a big problem with that per se.
But don't you think that's a steep drop though?
It is, but I think it's an overall problem. I mean, the overall problem is there's too many people in that show, so you can't get anybody over. I thought Cody's promo was really good, but it gets lost in the shuffle of trying to have 75 different factions, you know, the Kenny Omega, whatever, the old OG Bullet Club, whatever we're calling those guys, plus the Dark Order, plus the Pinnacle, plus the Inner Circle, plus the Gun Club, plus the FFA. I don't know how many different factions. The Deca Club. I don't know what we got. They got
Hangman Page ought to be head of the FFA. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic if Hangman would do that. And then there's just too much, you know, and even the thoughts of creating another program to compete against that program is kind of fraught with all sorts of problems in and of itself. I think you're getting an idea of what an absolute joke this Khan family is with the signing of Tim Tebow to the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Don't you think that these fuckers are they're just out there to be dicks?
Don't you think Urban Meyer went to Tony Khan and talked him into it though?
Well, but you'd have to, but you're going to sign the check. So you're like, it's great. It'll get us buzz in the media, and then they'll hate us. And then it plays in with this right-wing bullshit that Tony Khan apparently likes to fuck with. I mean, all of these guys that are involved in the managerial part of All Elite Wrestling, they're hardcore semi-Trumpers. And in Jericho's case, not even semi. Yeah. You know, he fucks with that Trump shit hard. The Young Bucks fuck with that shit hard. I don't know where Cody falls on that spectrum, but a lot of those guys seem to be pretty right-wing.
Listening to Cody's speech the other night, it was hard to tell, you know, but it kind of leaned a little to the left more than it did to the right by the end of it.
It's hard to say. I would say that he's more that way, but I don't know. And I think this is
don't know.
The culture right now, at least among a lot of the Republicans, is we just do shit to own the libs. We don't care if it makes us look stupid as fuck or fucks up the country or whatever. We just want to own the libs. And that to me is the signing of Tim Tebow. Owning the libs by paying this guy $500,000 for nothing or whatever. Because you're going to like I'm in my room at night just shaking my fist. Oh, I really didn't want Tim Tebow. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Now I do. I want the Jacksonville Jaguars to fail on a lot of different levels, but not just because these guys they're out there just trolling people. Yeah. And to me, there's a lot of that shit that's involved in his promotion and his wrestling promotion.
And that's too bad too, because I like Trevor. I still like Trevor.
I'm a fan of Trevor. I was kind of hoping, but you know, Urban is so deeply into his own shit. You know, I think Urban is so into his own thing. I feel like I'm hoping that this is going to be very much like what Nick Saban faced when he was coaching the Dolphins. That's what I'm hoping for. The great takeaway from Nick Saban's time with the Miami Dolphins, which nobody talks about anymore because Nick Saban is just the greatest coach of all time and he's never done anything wrong and he owns everything.
Yeah, that's probably the Mandela effect. Nick Saban thing. He never coached at Miami.
Never happened.
Never happened.
The great takeaway from that is him wearing when they were going with those stupid alternate purple things. He's in there wearing his purple windbreaker, telling him, "No, I'm not going to be the next coach at Alabama. I will not be the next coach at Alabama." That's
purple.
There's clips of that. That's very much the Mandela effect. You're absolutely right about that. But yeah, I don't know. AEW does a lot of hot shot stuff, so you're not going to be able to get a true reading of what's going on. And I even thought the face-off with the Pinnacle and Inner Circle with Jericho and MJF, I don't know if that really paid off as nicely as it could have. But I still find the show to be the best wrestling show on television right now. SmackDown's pretty good. I think SmackDown has closed the gap. I think my problem now with NXT is, I'm wearing my Eli Drake shirt tonight.
Nice.
I'm not worried about him. Shirt, man. I'm not worried about him getting over. I'm not worried about LA Knight getting over. I just don't think NXT can get over. NXT just is just dead in the water. 2 years ago, that was absolutely the show to watch. It was the coolest thing. And their takeovers were like they were must-watch things. And now there's nothing on there that's very compelling at all. I think, Cameron, the thing they're doing with Cameron is really interesting, but there's a lot of stagnation. There's a lot of stagnation down there, and there's not a lot of getting over with NXT right now.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so, but I did have no, because I didn't say it, so I'm not going to. I can't say it. But in my mind, back when they started having all these crops of NXT guys and girls going up to SmackDown and to Raw in clumps like that every 6 months or so, it's like I'm thinking to myself, wow, they must have a good garden in the back growing some of these guys out, because I want to see where all these other people are going to come from because after a while it's like, God dang, okay, well there's 5 or 6 gone, and next thing you know 5, 6, 7 more gone, and now we're left with who we are, and even some of them that we've talked about several times, like Gargano and Ciampa and fucking Cole. How long have they been down there? Kyle O'Reilly, for that matter, too. I mean, they're just keeping them there, keep a roster going, basically.
It's like Crash there in Bull Durham. He's just staying down at the single A level forever, right? It's down in the minor leagues forever at some point.
Yeah, and again, we get back to the point of is it the minor leagues or is it not the minor leagues? Have we come to a conclusion on that part yet?
Well, they did. When they welcomed him down. Who was it they welcomed when
Finn Balor?
Yeah, he goes. It was Tommaso Ciampa that goes, "Hey, welcome to the main roster," or some shit like that. And at that time, you can be like, "Okay, he might be right," but the main roster
at one point, yeah, like you said, man, you could have made a great argument. I would have made a brilliant argument at one point that NXT had the best shit going out there back in 4 or 5 years ago. But
let's just do a quick check. Who's the most over performer in WWE right now?
In all of WWE,
SmackDown and Raw.
It's got to be Roman
Reigns. That's an easy answer, right?
Yeah,
that's an easy answer.
He's yeah.
Now, who's number 2? Who's the second most over performer in WWE?
I would say.
See. That's the problem. I'm going to say Charlotte. I'm going to say Charlotte Flair, and she just came back.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to say Charlotte Flair is the second most over performer in that company right now.
Okay.
Who
I was going to say Drew,
here's a tougher question. Here's an even tougher question. I'm not even going to bail you out on it. Who's the star of Raw? Who is the star of the Raw TV program right now?
Ooh. Golly.
I don't even know if I have an answer for that.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
You want to say the word? You would normality would make you say it would be the champion, right?
Yeah,
like
you would think
Bobby Lashley, but no, I wouldn't say Bobby Lashley.
To me, MVP is more over than Lashley is.
Oh yeah,
I'm just saying, and I'm just saying when your manager's more over than you are, that's a problem. That's a bit of an issue.
That's an issue.
I'm just saying.
Just thinking Mr. Fuji was more over than
holy shit.
You know.
I mean, you could say maybe at times, but not really, that Cornette may have been more over than the Midnight Express, but probably not. Probably wasn't. You know,
probably not, because they never talked. I mean, he you know, he was just he was their voice, literally.
Exactly. But they were still. You wanted to see them get beat. You were paying money to see them get beat, but you also wanted to see him get his ass beat too.
Yes.
I mean, there were times in certain angles when he was more over than they were. Like with the baby doll thing, certainly that would have been a time when he was more over and you wanted to see him get his ass beat more than them. Like,
right.
You would never say that J.J. Dillon was more over than the Four Horsemen. You would never say that.
Hell no.
There's no possible way that would have ever been a thing at all. So, Dark Side of the Ring, Nick Gage. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have seen it. I would like to hear your thoughts first.
Honestly, man, I don't know much about the dude at all. I've only seen his name thrown out there a few times in an article or something that I've read. I recognize the name. Honest to God, I couldn't have told you shit about him before I watched it last night. I'm just not one of those fucking deathmatch dudes, man. I know people out there are, and that's, if that's their thing, then that's, you know, do your thing. But that's just not my thing, and I just don't keep up with that shit, you know.
I'm with you. This was maybe one of my least favorite episodes of Dark Side of the Ring.
Man. Totally.
I thought they did a good job with it, and
right.
I felt the more interesting part of the episode was his battle with addiction and overcoming that. I thought that was all very interesting. I don't know that we really, you know, we sort of got into the whole relationship with his brother and stuff. That was interesting. But overall, I could have done without this one. And I know that I'm not going to like every episode, and I know that not every episode is going to be worthwhile, but I would say of all the ones that I've seen so far, if I was telling somebody, you know, who hasn't seen any of the episodes, I'd say, well, this is probably the one you could skip. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And I know that I was listening to somebody today, they were saying, and it might have been Evan and Jason when they were on, they did a thing on Conrad talking about the episode, that apparently Nick Gage met Mick Foley at one of the conventions, and he was like, "Oh, I love you. You're the reason I'm doing this, blah, blah." And Foley just goes, "I'm so sorry." I'm so sorry. And I think Mick honestly does struggle with the fact that he didn't mean to, but some people's takeaway was, I need to smash, you know, fluorescent lights over my head and roll myself in thumbtacks and shit. You know,
just don't get that, man. I don't. I think back to when I started watching wrestling in the old Mid-Atlantic shit, and I think about the CWZ and shit. I just like, it's just not even. It's really not. The only thing the same is there's a ring there,
right?
To me, and after that, it's just baseball and goddamn soccer. You know, it's just two different sports to me.
It doesn't, the whole idea behind, and I understand what Terry Funk and Mick Foley were doing in Japan with some of that shit. I do. I get all of that, but there's no, like, one of the greatest angles that we always talk about with Mid-Atlantic was when Abdullah the Butcher was killing the Chief in the ring, and they pixelated it, you know, because they couldn't show it.
Couldn't see it. All you could see was two silhouettes,
which made it like so much more violent, because your imagination was just running like, what are they not showing us? How can they not show us? And these people that were in the studio at WRAL, oh my God, they must have been freaking
gasping
out
and shit.
So, you know, there was a certain artistry, and there was a point to getting blood. You didn't just get blood all the time. If an angle needed it, it would bring out, you know, these very guttural emotions in people, and you would spend money and you go to the arena and you'd have to see the match because the guy's really bleeding, you know?
Right.
With these guys, there's no artistry to it at all. You know, when he's taking a pizza cutter to John Moxley's enthusiasm for this whole situation was extremely disturbing.
Yeah, well,
and now you get an explanation of why he was so into that Kenny Omega bleeding all over the place in Baltimore, and Chris Cruz's come back into the wrestling business for one night, and how Renee was freaking out and going, "Okay, I don't like this. This is no good. Stop. you sort of get some insight into John Moxley's personality, that somehow this all, he sees the point of all this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he cut his teeth on it. I mean, almost literally. So I kind of see that. It is kind of disappointing because I like Mox a lot, despite all the Nick Gage shit. But I don't get it. I don't
see the point of it.
I don't see the point of it. And let me tell you this about Abdullah the Butcher. And I don't know. I think I've told you this, but that point when I was watching wrestling, he scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He was the first wrestler to literally scare the shit out of me. I was so scared of fucking Abdullah the Butcher.
That was the point. That was 100%.
It was the point. It worked like a motherfucker. To me, I mean,
but
he
wasn't
on point.
And again, there's been some. I mean, he was that kind of attraction where he would do that crazy shit. But like Bruce and I were watching either the first or the second Starrcade, one of the Starrcades where he makes an appearance. That motherfucker gets in the ring, he's bumping like crazy. You would have never thought, what is this? But it's a big show. So he's not just out there with a floor guy with his tongue out and shit. He's getting thrown around and stuff because this is a big show. And if you're paying money, if you're watching this on closed circuit, or if you're watching it at the arena, you're like, oh my God,
shit.
Here's this 375 pound man sailing through the air like he's fucking Ricky Morton,
Yes.
So
and when I finally met him, and he offered, I didn't ask it. He offered to take the fork and act like he's stabbing me in the face with it.
Fantastic.
Oh my God. I just about fainted. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. This is the greatest fucking thing
wonderful.
ever. Oh my God.
So we get
that's
back
why I think it'll forever be my Twitter profile pic, man. It's always been my profile pic.
It's wonderful. It's an amazing memory, man. It's so cool.
But it says so much. It really does, because how scared I was of that motherfucker when I was a kid, to me being able to take a picture with him as an adult and just knowing, oh my God, it's just, I'm such a mark explaining this, but it's just the greatest, man. That's why I like that shit. But, I wouldn't say that about, I would never say that about Nick Gage, Sorry.
No. I mean, I think he's insane, but I think he lives a gimmick.
Yeah, he's insane, but
I'm glad that he's
being insane, and
I'm glad he's
a wrestler. I don't know.
I think next week we get back to our regular schedule there on Dark Side of the Ring. I think it's the Korean thing, right? Collision in Korea.
I missed it. I missed what it was going to be next week.
Is that what it is? I believe that's what they're doing. Yeah.
North Korea shit.
Okay. I believe it should be pretty amazing.
There's a lot of shit I'm sure I don't know about that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. If that's
let me make sure that I'm telling you the right thing here, because I'm going to something called Heal by Nature, and they've got the full list here. Chris Jericho returning.
The full list of what's coming up each week already.
It looks like they've already done it. Yeah, 14-hour Collision in Korea. We're one of the most bizarre theaters of bizarre actions. Yeah, I believe that's going to be next week. Collision in Korea. So that'll be very interesting to see how that works out. And I think it's going to be, because a lot of people don't know about it. Let's get to WrestleMania Backlash, which is coming up this Sunday on the WWE Network on Peacock. Let's start with, I don't know. Gosh, we have this is a loaded card. Universal. Wait a minute. Let's start with this one. WWE Championship, Bobby Lashley against Drew McIntyre against Braun Strowman. It's another three-way dance, Bryant, which we love so much.
Oh, my God.
Another big three-way dance between those guys. I don't know if they've built up any heat at all to go into that thing. It doesn't feel like they have.
They've tried, I guess.
I suppose. Much more heat over the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns taking on Cesaro, because you got to wonder about the Uso interference in this one and how that storyline is going to go. So that's going to be a very interesting match. The SmackDown Women's Championship, which they've, as we detailed, they sold me a ticket. They want me to see Bayley get the shit kicked out of her. As Bianca Belair, your champion challenges, taking on Bayley. The Raw Women's Championship, another fantastic episode of booking here, as it's another three-way dance with Rhea Ripley, your champion, taking on Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Wouldn't you be surprised if Charlotte Flair doesn't win it back, because they've tried to push her coming back from being absent for so long?
Yeah, it's been pretty obvious. It would be. I hope they don't. I hope she doesn't win, just because I don't think she needs the belt. But
are you on board with the various cosmetic changes that Charlotte Flair has had since we last saw her?
On board with it? What you said?
I think it's
hey, if Andrade's on board, I'm on board.
I think I think it's a little sad, but I mean, if she wants to do it,
It
that's
is a little
fine.
sad, but
I mean, you know,
I tried to say that as positively as I could have.
She's a lovely woman in her own right, and she shouldn't have to go through that stuff. But you know,
I looked at her a picture and compared the two not too long ago, about a couple weeks ago. I think while I saw her on TV, like a commercial, I'm like, I'm gonna go look at a picture from a few years ago.
Yeah,
God, it's just why did she do that, dude?
She had a classic volleyball player's body, very lithe, very tall, and then
slender, and just oh my gosh.
SmackDown Tag Team Championship. They built up this one pretty nicely. Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode challenging against the Mysterio boys. Dominic continues to be pretty good. He defended his dad from attacking against Robert Roode after that match tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Priest, they're really trying to push this guy against The Miz in a lumberjack match, but they haven't created a lot of heat for that match, have they?
Well, they've tried, but I don't think they've been very successful. At least I don't really care. I'm kind of tired of it. I wish they'd move on from it, because we've been doing this shit since WrestleMania and before with Bad Bunny and all that stuff.
Apollo Crews against Big E for the Intercontinental Championship.
Getting tired of that one too.
Yeah. Sheamus against Humberto Carrillo for the United States Championship. That's all but an afterthought too.
I mean, what do you think about Carrillo?
I always thought that there was something there, but I don't. They haven't done much to help him out at all.
I don't think so either. And it's like I can't even picture him with a belt. It seems really Carrillo with a belt.
He doesn't seem. There's a certain legitimacy there that doesn't really translate. Per se, I mean,
I don't know. Yeah,
it's like if you had that.
It's just like he came out of nowhere, man, and it's like there's no build up to him at all.
Well, I almost feel like that's a spot that Ricochet could take and do just as well, if not better.
And
what happened to Ricochet, the MVP of the company 2 years ago, and now he's like on a milk carton.
He was like all but the champion.
It looked like he was going to be. He really was poised to be like the next AJ Styles. He really was. And then all of a sudden, he went off and dropped off a cliff. COVID hit, and then it was, I don't know.
Do you think McMahon just didn't like the way he was on the mic? Because his mic work is just.
It's not great, but it's like, I don't know. I thought he could more than overcome that with his in-ring work.
I do. Yeah, and plus I thought he was getting better, but you can still tell that he still has some work to do.
Vince fell out of love with him over something or for some reason. I don't know if that story is ever going to be told, but by God, he was really getting pushed to the moon for about half a second, and then bam, it was gone.
It is weird, man. Now that I'm really starting to think about it. It's almost as weird as the whole Keith Lee thing. Do we even know what the hell is even wrong with Keith Lee?
Well, couldn't do a moonsault because that's what he needs to be doing.
See, that's believable to me.
Yeah.
But I find it odd that we don't know what's wrong.
Well, there was a moment allegedly where they freaked out and they were like, "Oh, him and Otis, they just can't work." And I'm like, they do like three things. That's all that they do, and that's all they need to do. They don't need to. Did. That's exactly right. Like Steve Austin would tell you, he had about 6 offensive moves. That's all he had. Otis doesn't need to be doing sliced bread number 3 or anything. He doesn't need to be doing that shit. I don't understand like how Vince goes off on that tangent.
I don't know. Yeah, that's some mysteries in there. I think I don't know.
I have listened to Matt Memories, which is John Aretzi's book about his time in pro wrestling and country music. John Aretzi, of course, works with Brian Last on whatever the name of that show is.
Yeah,
and I can't remember even, but it's like I listen to the show every week now. I can't remember what it's called. There it is. Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now. And
was
so
was he a promoter? Is that John Aretzi?
He did promote as well. Yeah, he was one of the guys that helped bring Lucha Libre into the United States and stuff, and he details that in the book. He also was probably the guy that helped discover country singer Patty Loveless.
Really?
Patty Loveless, yeah, at a bar in North Carolina, nonetheless, in Shelby.
Wow, how about that?
Working with
You
the
know, when I
Shelby
worked
Mets.
at that famous country radio station in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, several years ago, Patty Loveless was the fucking deal, and I had a freaking crush on that chick.
She had a tremendous run. She was a big star. You Don't Even Know Who I Am, and I love the song Here I Am. I think that's wonderful. But she had just a really good run there for a minute, for sure.
Yeah, she's got a great voice, man. Such an underrated singer. She really is.
So
but I had no idea he was involved with her at all. That's weird.
John
That's kind of
Retzi's
random, really.
John's book is out not only in print form, but also in Kindle form and now in audio form. So I can recommend that. It's very interesting, and it goes through a lot of different things. And he talks, he's the reason they always call him Patient Zero, because he's the guy that introduced Vince Russo into the business.
Oh,
so he goes into some great detail about that whole situation, how that happened, and
does he read is he the narrator of the book?
Yeah, he does.
Audio?
Yeah, he does. Okay. He reads the book, and it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of good stuff there. And he was at ground zero for a lot of stuff. He had a pro wrestling radio show back when nobody else did, and was doing some insider stuff when not a lot of people were doing it. And he pissed off the World Wrestling Federation at that time, for sure, on a lot of different stories. So,
well, he has a lot in common with somebody we know. Early radio shows, doing writing, pissing off people. Yeah.
All of those things. Any closing comments on another award-winning episode of Katie Vick is Alive?
I got to tell a quick story. This is an amazing story.
Sure.
The other day I'm leaving to go somewhere, right? And I'm having I think the older I get, the more anxiety comes out of me. So I'm having a kind of a bad anxiety day already. Yeah. So I'm getting in the car with my mom to go to the cable place to get my mom's cable set up for her new house.
Always a delight. Always a fun time.
Looking so forward to that on top of everything. Yeah. So we get in the car, and I had to take some stuff back from my other house, so I had to take some equipment back. So I had this tub full of stuff. So I go to the other one side of the car. I'm like, I got to take it back and put it on the other side of the car. So when I did, I had my phone and my glasses case with my glasses in it set on top of the car, which I never do, by the way. I never do this. And I really don't even remember my glasses being a part of this. But anyway, so I set it on top of the car, put the stuff in, and forget about it, and get in the car and leave, and don't think about it till I get to the Spectrum place, which is I'll tell you because but I went down Silas Creek Parkway, okay, the 4-lane parkway or whatever. So it wasn't just back roads. So I went about 5 miles from the house.
Okay.
Maybe 50, 55 miles an hour tops. Get out of the car when we get there and go around and look, and there sits my phone on top of the fucking car.
Holy shit.
My phone, and I'm like, I had to take a double take. I'm like, because at that time I did not even remember setting the phone on top of the car, right? So I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God. And I still don't even remember my glasses. So I'm like freaking out over this, like basically the rest of the day, because there's a brand new freaking phone.
Right.
That I got just back in March.
Right.
So I get back to the house. My mom leaves, right? My mom leaves, and I was running errands with her, like I said. And I'm like, I think I left my glasses in her car. And I had her look. She goes, Brian, they're not in the car. I don't see them. I've looked and looked. I'm like, and I jokingly said, I bet I left my glasses on top of my phone on top of the car. And I said, well, I'm getting ready to walk Stanley. I'll go find out. So I go walking around, and as soon as I round the corner just above my house, I look in the road, and lo and behold, there are my glasses,
intact,
nice and crunched.
Oh.
They're intact. They're not in pieces, but the arm is like really bent, and the glasses excel. The lenses are like really scratched and scuffed up pretty badly. So
what a pain in the ass.
Basically, I had to go to Lens Crafters a couple of days ago, so start over again. But those were my backup glasses. So
okay,
it was just amazing. I just had to say that, tell that whole story. I'm sorry to drag.
No, I'm glad. That
the whole thing about the phone staying on the fucking car for that long.
That's amazing.
That will always just be in my brain, man.
When I first started working nights, like after the first 3 or 4 nights, I was going home after the last day, going to take a few days off. And I'm in the car, and I'm like, where's my phone? And I'm hearing music from the phone through the Bluetooth. I'm like, oh, shit, I left it on the roof. So I'm like, fuck. I pull over in a parking lot about a mile from work, and the thing just kind of As I put the brakes on, the phone just slides down the windshield.
Oh my God.
On the morning dew. And it was fine. It was unhurt. It was good.
Unreal. How does that happen? I guess
don't know.
maybe the weight of the phone holds it down or something.
Something.
But,
I don't
oh my
know.
God, man. It freaked me out. And I'm like, somebody's looking out for me today.
Yeah. You caught a break on that one.
Big time.
That's funny. Brian can be followed on social media on Instagram and also on Twitter. He's at Bry Sports, BRY Sports. On TikTok, Stanley Jackson 23. There it is. There's your phone, and he's hugging it. That's great. The show is on Twitter at Katie Vick Alive. I am on Twitter at Britt Whitmire. That's BRITTWHITMIRE. And on Instagram, it's BDub for Reals. BDUB number 4 REELZ. If you want to support what we do, you can shop at our Amazon store. That is katievick.com. katievick.com. Until next time, fans, we'll see you ringside.